Joshua 6 is one of the most iconic chapters in the Bible. The miracles fall of Jericho, a fortified city in Canaan. But it wasn't military strategy that brought victory. It was faith and obedience to an unusual command from God, okay? The first part of this chapter talks about God's unusual instructions, which encompasses verses 1 to 5. Now Jericho was tightly shut up because of the Israelites. No one went out and no one came in. God tells Joshua, march around the city once per day for 6 days, with all the armed men, 7 priests blowing trumpets, the Ark of the Covenant in the center, okay? On the seventh day, march around the city 7 times. At the seventh blast of the trumpet, everyone should shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse, and the people shall go up, every man straight ahead. No siege engines, no weapons, just obedience, silence, and praise, okay? Second, the march begins, which encompasses verses 6 to 14. Joshua gives the command exactly as God told him. The priests and the ark go before the people, okay? Everyone remains silent except for the trumpet blasts. This is done for 6 days, once around the city each day. Joshua had commanded the people, do not give a war cry until the day I tell you to shout. Okay? So the third part is the seventh day and the shout, which encompasses verses 15 to 21. On the seventh day, they march around the city 7 times. On the seventh lap, the priests blow the trumpets. Joshua said to the people, shout, for the Lord has given you the city. Then the wall collapsed, so every man charged straight in, and they took the city. Jericho is placed under a ban. It is devoted to the Lord. All silver, gold, bronze, and iron go into the Lord's treasury. Okay, everything else is destroyed. Fourth part, Rahab and her family are spared, which encompasses verses 22 to 25. Go into the prostitute's house, bring her out, and all who belong to her. Just as promised in Joshua chapter 2, Rahab and her household are rescued. She lives among the Israelites from then on. And it's part of the genealogy of Jesus that is written in Matthew chapter 1, verse 5, okay, if you want to check that out. Okay, Joshua's course, which is only verse 6. Cursed before the Lord is the one who undertakes to rebuild the city, Jericho. Joshua pronounces a curse. Anyone who rebuilds Jericho will do so at the cost of their firstborn and youngest son. This curse is fulfilled centuries later in 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 34, when a man named Heel rebuilds Jericho and suffers exactly this fate. Okay, so the final statement, which is verse 27. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land. Key lessons from Joshua chapter 6, okay? First is obedience often looks foolish before the breakthrough. Marching silently around the city for days didn't make sense, but God's ways are higher. Second lesson, victory is God's, not ours. They didn't knock down the wall. God did in response to faith and obedience. Third lesson, God keeps his promise. Rahab's rescue shows grace and faithfulness, even to outsiders. Fourth lesson, sin and devotion cannot mix. Jericho was under a ban. This was God's holy judgment, not a political conquest. Yeah. Fifth lesson, holiness comes before expansion. Okay, God was not just given land, he was forming a holy people who trusted him. Okay, so the fall of Jericho wasn't about strategy or strength, it was about trust. God gave instructions that made no military sense, and yet the walls fell when his people trusted and obeyed. Okay, so don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, please.